Let's go. Andrew in Bay Ridge. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, Mike. I enjoyed the interview you did with Mike from New Haven last week. Thought you were pretty good on that.
You actually heard that?
And you didn't have to do that, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Where'd you hear that?
He has it posted on his.
Oh, he does? Okay.
His YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
And also, one of my favorite interviews that you did was the one with Dick Vermeil at the Super Bowl a few years ago when you guys were talking about the wine and the grapes and everything.
That's him.
I really enjoyed that.
That's actually him. He's the guy. He grew up there. That's where his father was one of those, lifelong wine vineyard guys, a winemaker. He comes from his family. His father, his grandfather were from there. They're from from that part of California. Absolutely. Very big part of their lives. Max in Long Branch. What's up, Max?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? I've been calling you for a bunch of years, always about the Mets.
Yes, Max.
So remember I brought my kid to a Met game. It was Ike Davis's debut, and I was lucky to sit right next to you.
I was there. I went to see Ike that night. Ike got a blue pit. He got a blue pit over first base his first time up, right? Remember, he got a little blue pit?
So I remember sitting next to you. I didn't want to talk to you and bug you, but you're really nice. You're nice to my son. You're nice to me, and ever since I've been calling you a lot. So
oh, good.
Thanks for that. It was a lot of fun. That was cool.
Thank you, Max.
And I remember it was a cold night, too.
It was a freezing night. There was nobody there. I remember that very well.
Nobody there, and it was really ice cold.
Yes, it was
anyway,
cold.
Regarding the Mets, if the Yankees were willing to give Ellsbury for $5 million, $6 million, I think the Mets would actually do it.
You know something? If I were the Mets, I don't know if the Mets will do anything these days, but if I were the Mets, if the Yankees would cough up enough of the cash, and they'd
not a bad get.
And they'd
really
sweeten the pot by giving me a little something extra, another player, something they don't need, I would take Ellsbury. And I'll tell you something. I think if you put Ellsbury in a no pressurized situation in the outfield, you'll get good numbers out of him. I really believe that.
Citi Field may be good for him.
He hit a lot of doubles and triples. Outfield. Yeah, he hit a lot of doubles and triples. And you know what? He's kind of like, you just got to leave him alone and let him play. That's just kind of who he is. He's a very different guy. He's always been a different guy. I mean, that's just his nature. Last year, he had a good run for the Yankees where he played himself back into importance. Then he slumped really late towards the playoffs. But before that, he really played very well in late August and September for the Mets, for the Yankees. He played very well. But I agree with you. I think he would help him. Joe in Manhattan. What's up, Joe?
Hi. Mike, first and foremost, I wish you all the very best
Thank
of
you,
the
Joe.
holidays to you and your family and your future endeavors as well.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a question regarding the 5.5 hours you've been running the show, which is unique, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I've been listening to you.
How long it is? It's the longest show in the country. There's no show that's 5.5 hours long.
I've been listening to you since the inception of WFN, mostly. Now, I have one question regarding, the replacements, 3 hosts in one single show. Did it have to be 3 hosts in a single show? Why was it not like an hour or 2 per host?
They don't want one-man shows. One-man shows are actually harder, Joe, than easier if you're going to try to do them, especially in drive time. There aren't a lot of one-man shows. They're very rare. But they've cut the show back an hour. So the show's not going to be that long again. It's going to start at 2 instead of 1 starting next week. The show is not going to be 5.5 hours anymore. It's actually going to be 4 hours a lot because the Yankees in April are actually starting their games at 6:30, not at 7. Just from April. But in April, the Yankees have decided to move their games up, and they're going to actually start the pregame before 6 and start the game at 6:30. So that'll just be in April. After that, they'll start at 7 o'clock in May, but that's their April home games. So that part of the year, they'll be on earlier. But Joe and Evan are going to go 4 hours starting on Monday. They're going to go 10 to 2 starting on Monday. So they'll do 4 hours, the 2 of them, and then the next show will be 2 to 6:30. So no more 1 to 6:30. 1 to 6:30 was created, to be honest with you, for 2 reasons. 1, to pay us. And 2, so that we could control 2 time periods. That was really it. So we could influence 2 different day parts. That was what the plan was. And it's one that they've utilized for many, many years. And that was really the reason. But the biggest reason was to get a bang for their buck. They had to pay a dog and myself, so they wanted to get us on for as long. There was actually a time when we actually came close to, and this is absolutely the truth, We actually came close to doing 12 to 6:30. We discussed it. We had a meeting about it. Then we also thought about going 1 to 7. So we had discussions about being a 6-hour show or longer a couple of times when it was still Mike and the Mad Dog. Paul in Connecticut, what's up, Paul?
Hey, Mike. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through, but
I think a lot of people will get through on. I've heard a lot of people say that to me today. I think on Friday, it's all callers.
Well,
I couldn't get him to cut out the commercials. I couldn't get him to cut out the commercials for the show. I wanted to. I couldn't get him to do it. As a matter of fact, I mean, that they would make. I'm not surprised that I'm not making them pay double. But the point is, they wouldn't do it. But we will only have callers. We won't have anything but callers, and we'll rip through a lot of them. So I promise we'll get as many in as we can.
Well, here's the deal. I'm going to try again tomorrow, but Friday I'm actually going to be in the city with my family.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
I will not be able to call in nor listen, but I'm sure I'll find a copy of it somewhere.
Well, they're putting a whole show on the podcast on Thursday and Friday.
Okay, good.
The entire show will be a podcast on both days, is what they're planning to do. So, you know how they do the regular podcast? They cut the show up. They're not cutting the show up. They're putting the whole show on as a podcast. Anthony in Marlboro, what's up, Anthony?
Mike, I found a way to remedy my missed interview for a few months while you're off the radio. I don't know how you feel about all the content on YouTube, but I spend hours at night listening to that. Not hours during the weekend. You mentioned General Patton before. You gave the greatest fire and way speech to your critics in 2008, 2009. And Mike, I wish you would go back and listen to it, because everything you said 10 years ago came true. I hope, can I give you the link to that so you can listen to it? It's amazing.
Go ahead.
It's Mike Francesa goes gangster on Chris Russo. It is.
Oh, no, wait,
Mike,
I don't want to be attacking, dog. I mean,
no, you weren't attacking anybody, Mike. It was
so
classy.
I don't know. Listen, those early days when we split up, when Dog left, the two parties, like you would expect, there were things said back and forth by the companies, because that's what happens when you first break up. Like, oh, we'll do better, we'll do better, they'll do better, we'll do better. So that went on a little bit the first year. And the first year there was some rough stuff because everyone was pulling at both of us to try to go after the other one. So, people were trying to set it up and tee the other one up to get on the other one. And some of that bled through because it happened a couple of times. But after the first year, it never happened again. It really didn't. And it was only that new stuff. And that's what happens when a team breaks up, because what people do is they try to divide everything and they try to choose sides about everything. Oh, what's going to be better? Who's going to be more successful? This one's going to fail. This one's going to do well. And that stuff went on that first year. So, I mean, if that's what it is that he's alluding to, and I don't know, because I don't ever go back and listen to any of the old stuff. When you're still doing it and still churning out, all these hours every week, you really have time to go back and listen to all the old stuff. But there's a ton of Mike and the Mad Dog old stuff. There's a ton of stuff that I've produced over the last 10 years. So there's a lot there, but I haven't had a chance to do that. Robin in New Canaan, what's up, Robin?
Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Good, what's happening?
Congratulations on a brilliant career.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you.
I'll give it a shot on Friday. Not sure if I can get in there, and want to talk about Cashman real quick, but I've been trying to think about the one thing I wanted to go back to, and it goes back to you and Dog together. And one of the things that I don't think people talk enough about is sports knowledge and all that, of course, but how much you and then you guys together could just make us laugh until we were in tears. And the one week that I wanted to go back to was the week that Doggy went through his whole week that he was going to become a pinstripe pit bull. And he was no longer a Giants fan, and he jumped onto the Yankees bandwagon. You remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Do you remember the Torrey interview on Thursday when Torrey himself was like, are you kidding me? What's going on here? He was laughing. That's how stick to it Dog was the whole week. And then you ended it. You got Dusty to call in at 5 o'clock on Friday and say, dude, what are you doing to me? Have I lost you?
I remember.
And dog with it to the, like.
I remember. I remember the whole. I remember the whole week. Absolutely. And it was, we did a. Listen, during the year you create a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, especially in the slow months. And Dog and I used to create some really goofy stuff. I mean, we did some crazy stuff out there. That's what you do. I mean, sometimes you have to, kind of do something to make things be a little more. Interesting. I mean, that's part of the deal, especially at different times of the year. February, July can be like that. So there's a couple of times where you get lulls. I mean, usually there's stuff going on. But as far as, we did a lot of that. We really did. Supply House.